If you wait like 10 seconds, you will be able to do like everything. There you go.
Well, welcome everyone to the first session of what is currently called Music for Our Spiritist Soul. And today I'm going to focus on the topic of vibration. Before getting started, I want you to all start thinking about what music means to you. So it should be rattling around inside your head for a few more minutes as I play with the technology and give us something to inspire us. Well, certainly, if you are a lover of music, you've heard that before, and you probably know that's Beethoven and his Fifth Symphony. And I believe that's a good starting point for what today's session is going to cover, because in that opening minute or 2 minutes, we heard a broad range of sounds. So let's begin with the definition of what is music. Merriam-Webster Dictionary in America defines it as the science or art, right away, the science or art of ordering tones or sounds in succession, meaning tones or sounds are in a pattern. They move sequentially in succession, in combination, in relationship to each other to produce an overall sound called the composition that has unity and continuity. Wow, that's a mouthful. What else is music? Well, it can be vocal, instrumental, or mechanical. Sound, sometimes with a rhythm or a melody or a harmony. And you don't have to be a musician to understand basically what those mean. But most importantly, music falls into that part of the human brain that is agreeable. We feel positive when we embrace music. Now, there are forms of music that we embrace more strongly than others, and we'll talk about that. So again, back to this question, what is music? So take a very personal approach. What is music to you? And then think about what was music to your parents or your relatives or your children. What does music mean to them? If you're a musician, professional or amateur, a singer, a pianist, a violinist, a drummer, whatever your instrument is, what does music mean to you? Probably not just your instrument. A singer without accompanying music is just a singer. Let's talk about ages and even nationalities or regions of the planet. What does music mean to people in different generations and people in those generations in all these different parts of the country? Asian music for a 20-year-old is nothing like Asian music for a 60 or an 80-year-old. Now, here's a good one. What is music for a spiritist? Well, we know every one of Kardec's books references music and musicians. All 5 of the opening books have references throughout. The introduction to Spiritism, newer generation of literature, has references to music and musicians. Spiritist magazine has amazing articles about music and musicians as it relates to spiritism. So I'm going to give you a glimpse of what will occur over the coming weeks, because we're not just going to delve into music. We're going to go in a variety of different directions, like a kaleidoscope. I'm going to try to provide information and examples for a better understanding of how spirituality is affected by vibrations, because music is vibration. And if you're a spiritist and paid attention to the teachings, you already know about vibrations. You already know about the energy of vibrations. So begin to think about the correlation of musical vibrations to the vibrational environment that you've been studying for however long you've been studying it. We receive vibrations not only through our ears, not only what we can hear, but also what we feel. If the vibrations are loud enough, intense enough, of a corresponding pitch to our own nervous system, individual nervous system, you can feel the vibration of music. And if you don't believe me, stand next to a bass drum or a sousaphone, tuba. You will feel the vibrations. And similarly, if you stand next to a harp, you can feel the vibrations. One thing's for certain, the human body, in all of its receptors, can be significantly impacted by the musical vibrations, impacting our perispirit, our spirit. I don't know if it's actually impacting our perispirit or if that impact already exists. That's a great question. The impacts can be positive or negative. They can be temporary or long-lasting. They can become planted in our brains and our bodies. How many times have you heard a song and you can't get it out of your head? You sing it for days. So finally it leaves. How many times have you heard a song such as on the radio while driving and immediately you don't like it and you switch stations? And every time you hear the song, you immediately switch stations. So if you spend time in your car listening to music, that's probably a reality for you, just as you would also choose what music to listen to while you're driving. So I'm going to go in a very specific direction now and talk about an importance of vibrations to the physical body. So we begin to receive external vibrations while we are developing in our mother's womb. Even though our hearing may not have begun to be developed as a fetus, the vibrations of our mother and the external world are literally felt by the fetus, the vibrations. As the embryo grows, the fetus hears the mother's beating heart, her blood flowing through parts of her body, and all of her movements are felt. Then the hearing begins to get developed. And in the latter stages of pregnancy, the baby is stimulated by these external vibrations that it is very aware of. And this contributes to the baby's development of the senses, in particular, the hearing and feeling senses, both the receptors themselves and the brain that interprets the sound and the vibrations. Now, if those vibrations are musical in nature, I just love this picture, and there's a whole lot more to be learned. Many scientific studies have been done to show the impact of music on the fetus, as well as benefiting the child during early child development. Everything from motor skills to sound recognition, to what the child interprets as this makes me happy, joyous, or this causes just the opposite effect. So consider a child who is surrounded by classical music of any type, and compare that to a child, and again, without looking at studies, who's surrounded by heavy metal or disco or gangster rap. We can easily step into judgment and begin to talk about lower energy forms, higher energy forms. So some questions to consider as you think about all the different types of musical sounds, and you consider what this might do to a child who has not yet been born. What about the beat, the tempo, slow versus fast? What about the volume? And what about mom's favorite song that she plays all the time? How must the fetus be responding and reacting? Might the fetus come out and absolutely hate the song because it was played so much while in the womb? Or might it come out totally inspired and become a great songwriter? But for certain, science can now say, beyond a doubt, the fetus responds to sound. The sound elements of the human brain and the ear canals start at between 22 and 24 weeks, and they start hearing the low frequencies, the blood flowing, the mother breathing, and other sounds from within, not necessarily external. That happens as the brain continues to develop and the range of sounds increases towards mid-range frequencies. And by the last trimester, the fetus is now capable of hearing voices and even distinguishing them. Dad versus mom, another child. Because now the brain has developed to be able to hear low, mid-range, and high frequencies. So I'm going to try something here just for a few seconds.
Scientists have discovered a link between
that. So that's a picture of a fetus for a sonogram, and the microphone is picking up what the baby is hearing. A lot of low range sounds, not a whole lot of distinction, but that's early in the fetus's development, as you can visually tell. So the importance of vibrations before the baby's born can be significant. But then the baby is born. And not only did this new child of God begin receiving a massive volume of sounds and vibrations, but the child begins to have their own sounds and vibrations. And their learning experiences doubled, not only external sounds, but their own sounds. And some child development experts say that you can actually study a child in its first 6 months as it responds prominently or minimally to its own sounds. There's some statistics that are beginning to be arrived at, some conclusions about what kind of personality this child may exhibit during its formative years up until the age of 7. But one thing's for certain, this new baby is now part of the planet and contributing to the entire planet. So in this human experience of vibrations, science will talk about sound waves going through the ear, being interpreted by the brain, and that the actual brain function distinguishes frequencies. So we will hear certain sounds and care more for them, not care at all, or care less for them. Most people, most scientists will say most people, all in that mid-range. All the sounds are acceptable. Some people definitely develop an aversion to high-pitched sounds, and some to the low vibration sounds. So let's talk a little bit about the earth, for we know the earth is alive, receiving and emitting its own vibrations all the time. The earth is in constant vibration. Some of it is our proximity to the sun. And our magnetic poles, our constant rotation, and our orbit around the sun. The entire solar system's orbit generates vibrations. These vibrations are actually both outward bound and inwardly directed. The earth literally sends vibrations to itself through the crust of the earth, from underground, from the sky, and of course, we send vibrations out into outer space, whether they're man-made or earthly in nature. But one thing's interesting is all 4 of the kingdoms on this planet are impacted by vibrations to one extent or another. And it shows in so many different ways, from earthquakes to floods to how some animals, or most of the animal kingdom, have a sense of danger is coming way before the humans sense danger is coming. Whether it's a sound like hooves in mass, whether it's a meteor falling from the sky, the animal kingdom has senses that we humans typically do not exhibit. So again, some interesting questions here. What about the world of discarnate spirits? I wonder how the vibrations of the earth impact both higher and lower spirits. We tend to think about human vibrations and spirit-to-spirit vibrations. Interesting to think about earth vibrations. So as I said earlier, the earth is in constant vibratory change. And there's some interesting studies being done right now that talk about the poles, the North Pole in particular, is moving. Don't know why this is, except that we do know the Earth's orbit around the sun, the Earth's own rotation, and all the other things that are floating around the Earth means we get vibrations and impacts from magnetism all the time. Scientists will say we are in perpetual motion. It doesn't stop. 24/7, 365, etc. Constant vibratory change. Now, one of the interesting aspects of this is we humans, we go to bed at night, we have our nightly routine if we're good spiritists. We awake with gratitude, prayer, meditation, and we rise and shine. No matter what kind of vibratory changes have been going on. Rarely do I hear about somebody waking up and their first thought is, oh no, oh my gosh, whatever, something hugely negative. Already, our brain doesn't kick in that manner typically. Our brain takes over and we are human to get out of bed, do our morning routine, etc. But is it any surprise at all that some days after we've fully waken up, after our brain is fully engaged, after our body and circulation are moving, then we begin to feel energies which are different from yesterday or last week or a month ago. And we start paying attention. The energies are very strange. And if we really think about it, we might get up and rise, but do we really shine on those days where the energies are a little abnormal, or at least have impacted us? So let's talk a little bit more about pleasing and unpleasing vibrations. Naturally, we cannot influence or control or alter anything going on out in space, anything going on our planet. We humans are not capable of that without destruction. But we can have an impact on the Earth's magnetic fields, and of course on the environment. Therefore, the vibrations not directly caused by humans are different from or impacted by the vibrations because of humans. So one example of this are studies being done in the Caribbean Sea right now. The quantity of plastic that is accumulated where the Atlantic spills into the Caribbean has changed the Caribbean substantially. The water flows are different. The currents are different. They're slower. We humans tend to focus only on the vibrations we create, largely because of our materiality. We can turn on or off a radio or a TV because we seek something more pleasing or entertaining, feeding our ego, or desiring something less negative and destructive, more pleasing to the ear, put us in a good mood, so to speak. But what is the science behind what pleases us in the vibratory sense? So you might know there are good vibrations and bad vibrations. 1 second, please. My dog wandered in and wandered out. So let's think about the sounds of everyday life. Even during the pandemic, we have not lost our memories and we still experience some of these sounds. Engines, diesel trucks, buses, trains, lawnmowers and leaf blowers, garbage disposals and dishwashers, doors that quietly shut, doors that shut not so quietly, heating and air conditioning, hard-soled shoes walking on a hardwood or tile floor, the flush of a toilet, animals, of course, everyday life sounds. We tend to ignore them. We're unconscious of them. They're part of everything. Sometimes they can get a little edgy to us. And if we think about musical vibrations, I start getting into the real depth of what we will be covering in the future weeks. So beyond my personal taste, beyond my cultural upbringing, beyond my crazy personality and beyond the influence of others, something inside of me is very natural. It's built in. I have a capability to quickly determine if a musical sound is appealing to me or not. And as I show you these instruments by name, if you know them by name, you immediately equate to the sound, and you'll be able to tell really instantly if this is pleasing to you or not. Harps. Almost always humans believe harps conjure up heavenly images, angelic elements. Almost all humans are very pleased by the sound of the harp. Bagpipes. If you've heard them, it's an acquired affinity. You have to really work at learning to like bagpipes. Violins. Now, typically we think of great violinists playing great music and sounding absolutely amazing. But it always depends on the quality of the musician. And if you don't believe me, music teachers will tell you that beginning violin students, after 30 minutes, you need a break. You need to put your headphones on and have nothing but silence, because you've been listening to people try to master a very difficult instrument.
Mark, should I know
Yes.
what bagpipe is?
Say again?
Should I know what bagpipe is?
Bagpipe.
Is this an instrument?
I promise you, Chris, I will have a bagpipe example in a future session.
Yay, okay.
Okay, I will introduce attendees in this class through the various weeks into a whole variety of instruments you may not have ever heard before, and explain a little bit about them because of the unique vibrations. There's a little tip about what's coming in future weeks. So I believe music is about our senses, not just the sense of hearing, it's about our senses. Now, we've already talked about this a little bit, but most humans respond favorably to that which is pleasing sound. But why is that the case? Scientists believe there's a correlation between our individual vibratory patterns when we are in complete silence and that which is heard audibly or even felt. Give me a second, the fetus has returned. It's making noise. There it is.
I would say I can still hear the sound of the heartbeat.
I
But
know.
maybe it's just me. Oh, maybe it's not.
Oh, now I don't know where it's playing because I don't see it.
I think it's the third tab.
Let's try it
The
again.
third one. Try from left to the right. It's the third tab. You see there is a sound in there. This one. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. There you go.
Thank you. Oh, that's much better. Okay. I keep flipping around to wrong tabs now. There we go. Okay. So again, I believe it's all about our senses. And scientists have done some interesting studies. I'm not sure they're done yet. There's plenty of conclusions that are being challenged. But there's this mapping of an individual person's vibratory patterns. So if you understand how the heart is monitored in today's technology, they can do it a variety of different ways. They can do it visually, they can do it audibly, they can do both at the same time. Through a sonogram, just like looking at a baby fetus. So I happen to have a heart condition, and every 6 months or so, I have my heart sonogram done. And I'm done a little bit of studying, so I'll ask questions and so on. But they have me in a very resting position, and they're taking this pattern. And what the scientists have done in tests is they've begun to see what sounds cause that pattern to change. And then they begin to do a psychological profile to try to figure out what the person was thinking or feeling in that moment of change. Were they happy? Were they sad? Were they excited? Was there no change at all? And so on and so on. So conclusions are pretty obvious. We can't see musical sounds. We can't taste musical sounds. We can't detect any odors from musical sounds. However, our brain gets in the way, as we often associate musical sounds to past emotions realized, even if we don't hear the music. So I can give you a number of examples of this. Here they come. I enjoy watching mariachi because I like Mexican food. I've gone to some really nice Mexican restaurants, the mariachi band serenades through the dining room. I associate mariachi music with wonderful Mexican food. I can almost taste it. I enjoy watching opera because I am Italian and I love pasta, period. I was raised on opera, interestingly enough. Not to the point where I'm an aficionado or expert by any stretch, and I certainly don't sing opera, but I love opera. I enjoy watching an orchestra, even not hearing the music. I can just look at the picture and setting and feel the wonderment of a live performance of an orchestra. I was fortunate enough to conduct one, a really good orchestra. Amazing experience. I am a child of the 60s, and musically, what that means is I was blessed during my youth with popular music in America exploding and changing an entire generation's perspective. I remember reading audible poetry. I don't know who wrote it. I can't find it online as a book, but I remember reading audible poetry. And within it were a series of songs that were, in fact, poems written by famous artists who chose not to record them. Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, a number of them. The phrase audible poetry has something very special for me in my history. Just as evident of the wonderment of something like audible poetry is noise. So during my lifetime, I've heard a number of live performances and recordings of what I would categorize as noise. Not very contributory in the sense of music or quality lyrics or anything of a beneficial nature. Not necessarily negative, but just a lot of noise. So much for trying not to be judgmental. We all know music is tied directly to our ability to hear. Our brain processes things very quickly. Most people will say, I don't even think about it. I either like music or I don't. I'll hear a song, I either like it or I don't. I'll hear a performance, I either had a good time or I didn't. It was okay. Sometimes music can generate great emotion. Personally, I have cried at that moment when the singer works up to and hits that magical pinnacle note after building towards it. I've laughed at how a flautist can make music like a bird. I've dropped into sadness when I hear a slow funeral dirge. And I've certainly cringed when a musician plays a wrong note during a solo. I pain for that musician who rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. And I've certainly felt remorse for the guitarist, including myself, who popped a string in the middle of the song during a performance. What are you going to do? And lastly, I've literally got up and walked out when the music got too loud, too edgy, upset me. I've excused myself graciously and left the room. As a Spiritist, I look back on my musical past and realized an awful lot of ego, an awful lot of pride went into my judgmental aspects that exist to this very day. But I'll share with you some things about putting this presentation together. In future sessions, I'm going to talk about a number of things, and everything on this list and most of today's presentation came from the spirit world. I spent a considerable amount of time in the car at Christmas time, driving on January 1st from Sacramento to Las Vegas. This content for today began on that trip. On my drive out to Sacramento to be where I am right now, more downloads. And this slide is those downloads. I'm going to dig definitely into Spiritist literature and what has been written by the masters. I'm going to talk more about the evolution of the earth and how these vibrations constantly changing are being studied with more discipline than ever before in mankind history. I'm also going to talk about the evolution of music on earth. It's something I find a lot of fun to do. You go back 6,000, 8,000 years and find out organized music existed in tribes. They literally played ensembles of music together and practiced. I'm going to talk about human greed and the attempt to control vibrations. This topic will prove to be very interesting, as I know so little, but what I've read so far absolutely astounds me. And so my research will be really good for me to put something together that I can share. I also am going to talk about something I was blessed to experience through both of my boys and their activities. So as an adult, to understand how the brain evolves by playing music versus listening to music. Both have wonderful benefits, but playing music is a really interesting element. And of course, in every single session, there's going to be musical examples, recorded music, live music, etc. And I'm going to try to talk about spiritual benefits and understanding. So to kick this last part of today's session off, you remember I opened earlier with the opening parts of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Now, I'm going to do in my next course a week from now an entire focus on Beethoven. And I'm not going to tell you much more about it than that. But I will tell you that in that presentation, I talk about a very important concept for everybody to constantly be aware of, and that is what we consider to be music, whatever our personal tastes are considered to be music. When you think about what goes into making that music, there's an awful lot going on, and it's not all in the human brain. So much of it comes from the spirit. So I'm going to play another version of Beethoven's Fifth. Okay, so the audience has gotten a full taste of Mark at his roots. I'm a rocker, and that's a group called Electric Light Orchestra. And there's an amazing story about that song and the inspiration behind it and what happened after that song became the #1 hit in the United States and then in Europe and so on. And that'll come in a future discussion. But immediately, I hope you all begin to get a sense of music can be anything we want it to be. And whether you like rock and roll or not, the roots of that song are in Beethoven's Fifth. In fact, the musicians of the rock group ELO include a cello and a viola. And they're Juilliard trained musicians, absolutely brilliant musicians. And they joined this rock band and put their influence on this song. And like I said, there's a whole story about that. I have another example, a very short clip. It's an example of how a sound can cause your mind to see something, even though the sound that you're hearing doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you're seeing. So if you would please close your eyes and listen to this and tell me what you hear. That is from a piece of music called Peter and the Wolf. And if you've never heard it, you need to become a child and listen to that. It is a child story with live orchestral music representing the pieces of the story, from humans to animals, to the good, to the bad. And the lesson is how the sounds can make you feel. That bird being played by the flautist was unmistakably a small bird flitting through the branches, through the air. And there are other animals by the sounds of the orchestral instruments that will paint that kind of vision in your soul. I'm going to end with a little bit of a biography. It's very difficult for me not to give this as a basis for my knowledge in what it is I'm presenting during these courses. And I can tell you that it is only in the preparation of today's presentation that I reflected on this and what a blessing my youth gave me. My first 7 years of life, very much surrounded by large Italian and Portuguese families. I have early recollections of standing next to my mother on the bench seat of a '53 Chevrolet driving from Sacramento to San Francisco, where all of her family lived. And she taught me to sing standing next to her. And over my first 4 or 5 years of life, she taught me how to listen to my own voice while she sang in harmony. She taught me to sing in rounds, like row, row, row your boat, and then stay focused on my part of the song while she's saying the same thing in her part of the song. My father encouraged me to get out the pots and pans and the wooden spoons and start drumming. My father was a bass drummer in high school, and he also played the saxophone. At the age of 8, I started playing with childish instruments. My aunts and uncles and parents started feeding me a baby accordion, a harmonica, and who knows what else. And at 9, I discovered the saxophone. And I'm certainly not an expert. I don't play it enough to categorize in that, but I can still play it. Now, if I could only rehearse with discipline. Did my first solo in a talent show at the age of 10. By 13, I started picking up guitar. At 16, I started listening to people who played piano because they understood chords and musical theory, and I wanted to know that. So much so at 17, I got a music scholarship at San Jose State University in the Bay Area, and I was a music major for 4 years. Fell into a rock and roll band at 18, and after college, not as a musician, not playing in any formal performances, I fell into what I call the life of self-enjoyment. I play for myself. Every now and then I get to do what I've done tonight, a sense of a little bit of musical talent. I've never lost the love of music. I've simply expanded the scope. I understand so much more now, especially the science elements, and especially the spiritual elements.
Mark,
Yes.
something happened and now we started hearing you very, very low. I don't know if anything changed, but if there's any way you can raise the sound.
Can you hear me now?
I think it's getting better.
Okay.
No, you guys can't?
I apologize for that last thing, but that's okay. It was all about me, and you don't need to hear about me.
It's good for me. I can hear you. Can you guys hear him?
Yeah. He just went way down low.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't moved. The computer is absolutely stationary. I must be internet feed driven.
Well, it was after you played your instrument. I didn't know if it messed with your mic or something. Or...
No,
it was beautiful. It was not that. I just didn't know if the loud noise like changed the setting on it or something.
Who knows? Who knows? So I do have, if I could find it, there it is. I do have something I would like to end with. It's going to depend on whether you can hear this clearly. So first of all, can you hear the guitar?
Yeah.
And you can hear my voice, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I have finally found a way to live like I never could before. And I know I don't have much to give, but I can open any door. Everybody knows the secret. Everybody knows the score. I have finally found a way to live in the presence of the Lord.
Yay!
Thank you.
Yeah, that was nice, Mark.
So beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Ian, I'm nursing Ian and we are listening to you, Mark. So that was a beautiful present for us here. Thank you. I'm inspired. I shall play the piano, Kiki.
I agree, Dri. I agree. You should definitely play here for us.
I would encourage you all to tell others about tonight, view the video, and if it is of interest, come next Friday, because I truly am serious when I say the downloads have been amazing. To be able to put this presentation together with the Spiritist perspective and try to be humble with it and communicate the right things. I think we're off to a good start, and there's some really good stuff coming. So, comments by anyone?
Yeah, I love that, Mark. There was a couple things that really stuck out to me, especially when you were talking about the effect that music has on a fetus. And it's interesting because, yeah, when you start thinking about it, if the fetus is hearing the mom's heartbeat and it's got that natural rhythm, how does it respond if it's all of a sudden is hearing a faster beats and things? It's just interesting to think about. And good job on playing the guitar. I'm trying to learn it myself. And absolute kudos for being brave enough to sing in front of people, because I keep my hour in the car.
Only the simple stuff, believe me.
It was a good job. Good job, brother. That was awesome.
Thank you, sir. My friends in Vegas, I need to do a Portuguese version of this.
Mike, it was great to hear you, not only playing the instruments, but the lesson, the information. I remember when you said about to produce sound, vibration. I remember a song from a Brazilian singer. His name is Lenin. Lenin has, in the lyrics of one song, he says, it's a kind of this, okay, in English, where the destination of this music when leave our mouth, something like this. It's very profound, it's deep. And when you were talking about this, I'm saying, oh my, it's remind me this song. And also when you the first slide, I think the music is the result of a combination.
Yes.
Sometimes I think, oh my, we have a lot of musics in the world for from since the drums in the wood, dry wood until now. I think in some place or some way we have there is like a file of all musics, because it's a kind of evolution, we're evolving. And well, the amazing thing is the combination. Few notes have a infinite sounds. This is
absolutely true. And as a trained musician, there is the technical aspect of the notes themselves. But I do not want to take that approach in explaining music. I want to take the approach of the result of having that type of knowledge. Let me give you an example, and I'm going to use both of our countries. So in Brazil, I pay attention to the and I forgot what they're called now, the groups that prepare for carnival, dancers, musicians. That group is called a word I forgot.
Escola de Samba.
Okay, so here you have 50, 100 musicians and dancers, and for months and months and months they rehearse, and then they do carnival. And it is not that different than in the United States, a high school or a college marching band, because they have rehearsed their whole life to play these instruments. And marching band, it's 1 week. Learn how to do those patterns on the field in 15 minutes and play music. And you get 1 week to learn that. The next week, you learn a different show, a different 15-minute show, different music, different everything. That's how college marching bands work. Well, I was in a college marching band for 5 years. And so I can tell you that when you break down what the human brain is doing, to be able to accomplish that, the musician has to memorize the music. They have to listen to themselves playing the music. They have to listen to the people that are standing next to them playing the music. They have to watch where they are in physical proximity to each other, make these straight lines or angles or cross through each other or whatever the case may be, while they're playing music, while they're listening. So the left side and the right side of the brain are an amazing construct, combination, as you said, Louise, combination of things going on. Sometimes one part of it falls off, fails. And the musician or the marching band person or the samba player has just a split second to correct and get back in step and get back in place and get back on the music. And they do it. The human brain is an amazing device to be able to do that. Now, as we're amongst adults, I'm going to tell you this. There's only one other activity in human life that comes close to what I just described.
No, you're not going to say that.
Left brain and the right brain. When two lovers get together.
Oh my God.
That's the only time the brain is working with that many parts all at the same time in combination.
Mm.
Now, if you've experienced that lovers connection, that's beautiful music. That's amazing vibrations. That's amazing energy being exchanged. And literally, the same thing is happening at Carnival every year, at every rehearsal, when marching bands get together, the same type of chemistry, combination of activities is going on.
That was beautiful, Mark. Very inspiring. I love music, most of the types of music, because I like to enjoy like the difference of the songs. And I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how we can use the vibrations in our favor. And you know that one of the things that I always do, like sometimes, sometimes when, I don't know, the day is hard or something is really tough and I need to raise my vibration, definitely song like is the first thing that comes into my mind. So I start singing, I just open the windows, I allow the sun to come. And then there is this song in Portuguese that says, allow the light of the sun comes into your house. And I keep singing it out loud, and then all of a sudden my vibration is different. Yes. Just because I started singing. So I agree with you. I think that music is a beautiful path for us to be aware of the vibration that we not only the vibration that we emit, but also the vibration that we surround ourselves with. So thank you for this inspiring day, and I'm excited for the next class.
So Chris, I'm looking for a piano player for a future session. You want to play?
I'm pretty sure Adriana is a better one. But I really enjoy the sound of the piano, and I'm still learning.
I know you are. I know. Adriana, if you'd like to play, just let me know. No pressure.
I know how to play Happy Birthday to You.
And she plays so beautifully. Yeah,
Uh,
you agree.
And we have a vocalist too.
I would appreciate to learn whatever you think that I can learn. So yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Mark. It was a nice class. I'm glad I didn't miss it.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a blessed night. See you online at our next session.
Should we
Thank
do a
you. That
closing
was a
prayer?
treat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Adrienne. Thank you, Kiki.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm tired now. Kiki, can you take us out, please?
Yes, sure. So let us close our eyes and inhale this beautiful vibration that is surrounding us. And I hope that we can all see these beautiful notes that are dancing around us as if the heaven is in a party, because we are together exchanging this beautiful love through such a beautiful modality, I would say, of exchanging love and exchanging vibration, which is music. May our heart keep vibrating in this beautiful symphony of love, expanding to all of our brothers and sisters this beautiful love and blessings that we received from our beloved Master Jesus, allowing the entire planet to benefit from this gathering that we had here, asking the guidance and protection from our mentors, and asking for Jesus to keep blessing every incarnate and discarnate friend, easing the pain of all of those who suffer, and multiplying blessings of love, courage, comfort, and peace. May there be peace on earth, but starting within our heart. And with love and gratitude for Mark and all the mentors that worked through him, we humbly ask for permission to close today's gathering. And so be it.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark.
Big love to you all.
Thank you.
Love you.
Good
See you
night.
next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.